Okay, good morning, all of you. Let's get started. And before we proceed further, if you have not taken note of this, the form of this general boundary value problem, please take a note of it, because when we see the applications, we are going to compare the corresponding quantities that are appearing here in this general boundary value problem with a specific problem. Okay, so I suggest you please take a note of this. Yesterday we have seen application related to heat conduction problem, and we are going to see in today's class the other problems, but in a quick we are going to just quickly go through them. We are not going to focus on how the governing differential equations and other things are obtained. We just look at the differential equation corresponding to that particular problem, and then boundary conditions, and then we'll see how to get the element equations from whatever we learned from this general one-dimensional boundary value problem. So if you have taken note of this governing differential equation, given any specific problem, our job is to identify what is this coefficient kx, px, qx. In some of the applications, some of these quantities may be zero. So you need to compare, prepare a comparative table between the corresponding quantities in the general boundary value problem and the specific application that you are looking at, and then accordingly you can write the element equations. And boundary conditions are these are the boundary conditions. Even for the specific application, the boundary condition you need to compare with these boundary conditions, and because all this information is required for us to write the element equations. So if we have a general boundary value problem like this with these boundary conditions specified, and if you adopt two node, please note that whatever we have seen yesterday, those equations are derived based on two node linear finite element. Okay, two node one-dimensional finite element, which is linear finite element. We derived the element equations using that kind of finite element. So I hope you have taken note of this. So let me show you the element equations for this. This is the element. These are the element equations. So once you identify k, p, q, and from the boundary conditions identify what is alpha 1, alpha 2, beta 1, beta 2, you can easily find these this matrix, stiffness like matrix and load like vector. Then you can determine the field quantities which appears in this vector D, field variable. Okay, so now let's see a specific application, heat conduction problem. In heat conduction problem, this is the governing differential equation. How this equation is obtained, you need to go back and see the concepts related to heat flow and other things, but we are not going to spend time on that. Just to show an application of this general boundary value problem, I have taken this. So if you compare this equation with the governing differential equation for general boundary value problem, whatever we just noted, it's exactly looking similar, except that field variable T is your temperature here, and the K as a function of X is taken by this Kxx, which is thermal conductivity, and Q is there. Q as a function of X that is taken by this Q, which is a heat generated or heat source, internal heat source. So these are the corresponding quantities. This is governing differential equation. What are the corresponding boundary conditions? Boundary conditions can be temperature specified, all the details, how this equation is obtained, all the details are given here. Okay, It's nothing but based on the conservation of total heat that is coming in and leaving. Based on that, you can derive this. Okay. And all this you can go through if somebody is interested. So for this problem, what are the boundary conditions? Either temperature can be specified or heat flow can be specified. So this is like an essential boundary condition. This is like a natural boundary condition. So if you take a specific problem, and now if you see the boundary condition T is specified, T is equal to T naught some value, and this is the natural boundary condition from which you can easily identify comparing with the general boundary value problem, these boundary conditions. You can easily identify what is alpha, what is beta, such kind of things. Okay, yeah, by comparing this one. So if you do that kind of comparison and find the corresponding quantities, you already noted element equations for a general one-dimensional boundary value problem. In that, you substitute all the quantities, then you get element equations. And T1, T2 are the field variables. In this specific case, this T has a meaning. It is temperature. And given the other quantities, thermal conductivity, heat source, and heat flow, Q1, Q2, given all this information, you can easily solve any problem. Here an application is given. It is temperature distribution. You need to find temperature variation along the thickness of the wall, which is of thickness 1 meter. On one side, the temperature is 200 degrees centigrade. The other side, it is insulated. Okay, it's insulated boundary, so heat cannot escape from that side. So with that kind of situation, how the temperature is going to be varying across the thickness of the wall. And if the height of wall is very long, if height of wall is very long, it can be treated as one-dimensional problem, and that is illustrated here. That is what is illustrated. You can go through it if somebody is interested. Applying the boundary conditions, temperature at the one end is 200. Okay. T1 is equal to 200. Solving this for the other temperature at the other nodes, you get the complete solution. And if you want, you can determine what is this heat flow. What is this heat flow at the last node? At this last node, what is the heat flow? This one. If you want, you can determine that. Okay. So now, if in addition to conduction, there is also convection that is happening, the governing differential equation looks like this. Okay. Anyway, I don't want to this is for completeness. I just want to show you the application of this general one-dimensional boundary value problem. That's why I'm showing you these equations. And if you are so far whatever you learn, it is not covering this kind of concepts, you ignore it. Okay, but have a idea in your with you that this whatever equation, general one-dimensional boundary value problem, that has several applications. Maybe tomorrow, if you want to do some interdisciplinary kind of research, you may again go through all this. Okay, so this is the differential equation for both, including heat conduction and convection. Okay, so this is how it looks like under steady state condition. Steady state means temperature is constant with respect to time. Under that condition, this equation is going to get reduced to this one. So we are going to solve under steady state condition. What is the temperature distribution along across any of these specific applications? What are the boundary conditions for this problem? The boundary conditions can be temperature specified or heat flow specified. So if you take this equation and compare with general one-dimensional boundary value problem, you can easily write the element equations. You can cross check. Okay, you can cross check this one. And then some application is shown here. Application is shown, heat flow through a thin film, and how this is going to be a one-dimensional problem, and how this is discretized, all that is shown here. And once you have the discretization, here there are 4 nodes and 3 elements. So for each of the element, you assemble the element equations, and then assemble the global equation system and apply the boundary conditions, appropriate boundary conditions. Here it is 30 degrees centigrade on this side, okay, and here 330 degrees centigrade, such kind of things. Or this is ambient temperature. On this side 330 degrees centigrade, T1 is 330 degrees centigrade. So with the T infinity or ambient temperature being 30 degrees, what is going to be the temperature at various locations along the length of this film? That is what is solved here. You can go through that, okay? And temperature distribution is plotted. Not only this, it can also be applied for this heat flow through thin films, convection boundary condition. Boundary condition is different. In the previous case, convection boundary condition is not used. Here, if you have convection boundary condition, what is going to be the difference? You need to compare with general one-dimensional boundary value problem, identify what is alpha or what are the alphas and betas, and then see the additional contribution to the stiffness like matrix and load like vector, and assemble the element equations, all that, okay? If the boundary conditions are different, how to handle this is illustrating that. Anyway, if this application is not of interest to you, ignore it. Next one is lubrication problem. In lubrication problem, the governing differential, or this is what is lubrication problem, okay? You have some kind of fluid, and this is like one surface on which you have a fluid, and on the top of the fluid you have a plate, or you can treat them as 2 parallel plates, and the top plate is moving with this is a velocity displacement. It's not the displacement, it's velocity. Top plate is moving at velocity u, and then how the velocity distribution is going to be across the depth of this fluid. So that is what this one, okay? So these are the boundary condition. At y is equal to 0, at the bottom end velocity is 0, at top end velocity is u. And then what is the governing differential equation for this problem? It looks like this. And what is this nu and other things? They are all given here. It's nothing but a dynamic fluid viscosity, okay? Rho is your density, u is the horizontal fluid velocity. So with this is the differential equation. Given this is the differential equation, and these are the boundary conditions. And the field variable here is this velocity, fluid velocity, horizontal fluid velocity is the field variable. So don't get confused. This is not displacement; it is fluid velocity here. And anyway, what you are trying to solve is for this u, fluid velocity. And 2 boundary conditions. This is a second order differential equation. 2 boundary conditions are required to solve this problem. And 2 boundary conditions can be obtained, or they can be natural or essential, or combination of both. Here both are essential. Here both the boundary conditions are essential. Okay. And now compare this differential equation with general one-dimensional boundary value problem differential equation. And if you do that, this is what you can observe. K is equal to K. The position of K in general one-dimensional boundary value problem is taken by this nu here, okay? And P is equal to 0. Q is taken by minus P divided or derivative of P with respect to X. This one. What is this P? P is nothing but pressure. Anyway. So once you identify this, you can easily write the element equations and then apply the depending on the discretization, apply the appropriate boundary conditions, and then solve the problem. So all that you can go through it if somebody is interested. Okay, so this is the wide variety of applications for this general one-dimensional boundary value problem. Now let's come back for an application related to structural engineering or structural mechanics. Okay, so this is all the previous example, and here convergence is also shown as the number of elements are increased, how the values are changing. Whatever results you present, it should be convergent results. So now coming to structural mechanics application, whatever general one-dimensional boundary value problem that you looked at, that can also be applied to solve this column buckling problem. And even though this member is shown as horizontal, if you want, you can actually rotate it, then it's going to be a column. Okay. Anyway, this is a column, a member which is subjected to load acting along its centroidal axis. Okay. And so this is a column, and here this end is hinge. This end is hinge. Hinge is in the sense your rotation, it can have some rotation, and here it is like a you can you can have displacement here. You can have displacement here, but rotation is restrained. Or sorry, here also you can treat that as a hinge. Sorry, this is also like a hinge. Okay, this also acts like a hinge. This is hinge column. For this kind of column subjected to load P, what is your Euler's critical buckling load? You know the solution for this, pi square EI over L square. So that is the critical buckling load for this problem, which is hinge with hinge conditions at both ends. Or that is also called simply supported column. Okay. So you already know the solution for this problem. Let's see how the solution that we get from two-node finite element matches with that solution. Solution in the sense, whatever I just mentioned, what is the critical buckling load for this kind of problem. Okay. So now governing differential equation for this problem, you need to go back to your mechanics of materials or strength of materials. Any standard book, any standard textbook, you can find the governing differential equation for this problem. You can see this is the governing differential equation for this problem. I suggest all of you take a note of this. I suggest all of you take a note of this governing differential equation. And if EI is constant, if EI, flexural rigidity, is constant along the length of the column, then you can take EI out of the differentiation, then this equation becomes this one. So please take a note of this. So this is a differential equation for this problem. What are the boundary conditions? Boundary conditions are simply supported boundary conditions. What do you mean by simply supported boundary condition? What do you mean by simply supported boundary condition? Transverse displacement is going to be 0 at both supports. Transverse displacement along this W direction is going to be 0 here as well as here. In addition, what is the other thing that is going to be 0? There is going to be rotation here, and also there is going to be rotation here. Rotation is not going to be 0. What is the other quantity that is going to be 0? If it is a simply supported boundary condition, what is the other quantity that's going to be 0? Should be able to answer this. Okay. Moment is going to be 0 at both ends. Moment is going to be 0. What do you mean by moment? Moment is nothing but EI times second derivative of transverse displacement with respect to x, or EI times curvature is going to be your moment. EI times curvature is your moment. So if moment is 0, that means EI cannot be 0. Flexural rigidity cannot be 0. If it is 0, there is no structural element at all. So EI cannot be 0. So if moment is 0, means curvature is 0. So curvature at both ends is 0. So that is the other boundary condition. What is curvature? Second derivative of w with respect to x. So that is one boundary condition. W is equal to 0 at this is x is equal to 0. This is x is equal to L. W at x is equal to 0 is 0. W at x is equal to L is 0. Curvature at x is equal to 0 is 0. Curvature at x is equal to L is also 0. So please, I hope you have taken note of this. Please take it seriously. Take a note of this. And if EI is constant, this degenerates to this one. And this is a fourth order differential equation. This is a fourth order differential equation, but we can reduce it to second order differential equation. Just wait for a minute. How we are going to do that. And we noted boundary conditions. The boundary conditions are transverse displacement at both ends is 0 and curvature at both ends is 0. Transverse displacement at both ends is equal to 0. That means that is nothing but 0th order boundary condition, that is essential boundary condition. And curvature being 0, this is second order differential equation that turns out to be natural boundary condition. Because this is a fourth order differential equation. And please note that this is whatever we are seeing now for column buckling, it's a fourth order differential equation. And whereas we so far what we have done is, in the last class and today's class, we were discussing about general one-dimensional boundary value problem. This is the boundary value problem we are looking at, which is second order differential equation. And now I am saying this, whatever element equation that you derived here can be applied to solve that column buckling problem, which I just showed you. But how can I solve it? That is a fourth order differential equation, whereas this is a second order differential equation. Somehow I need to do some substitution and then reduce this fourth order differential equation to second order differential equation, and also see the boundary conditions, appropriate boundary conditions with this kind of substitution. And then once we get that, the revised differential equation, that we need to compare with general one-dimensional boundary value problem. So I told you to make a note of that differential equation. I don't know whether you have done it or not, but now you need to make some substitution. Second derivative of w with respect to x, you just call that as y. And if you don't like letter y, you can call something else. Okay. It doesn't matter. Y is nothing but is not anything deflection or anything coordinate system or anything like that. Okay, it's not related to anything like that. Y is some variable which is defined, which is second derivative of w with respect to x square, just for substitution. So if y is defined like this, the previous differential equation becomes this one. The previous differential equation becomes this one. And this is a second order differential equation. It is enough if I have two boundary conditions to solve this. How do I get the two boundary conditions? This differential equation is in terms of y. So when I try to solve this differential equation, I'm going to solve for y. And so the boundary conditions also should be in terms of y. So when I have this kind of substitution, you can see the curvature boundary conditions. This is nothing but y evaluated at x is equal to 0. This is nothing but y evaluated at x is equal to L. So that is how I get the two boundary conditions. So the given column buckling problem, which is having fourth order differential equation with four boundary conditions, transverse displacement at both ends equal to 0, curvature at both ends is equal to 0. That problem is reduced to second order differential equation problem by making this substitution. And similarly, the boundary conditions are reduced in this manner. So now this is a second order differential equation with two boundary conditions. And then how to proceed? Now you compare with general one-dimensional boundary value problem and see the corresponding quantities. And then without going through regular process of variational method, all the details, you can directly use that element equation that you developed for general one-dimensional boundary value problem and write the element equations for this. And please note that why here is not displacement or anything like that. Why, if you want physical meaning of why, it is nothing but curvature. So when you are solving this equation subjected to these boundary conditions, you are solving for the curvature. That you need to keep in mind. Okay. Anyway, this is the given column buckling problem is reduced to second order differential equation and with these boundary conditions. So please take a note of it. Now you make a comparative table. What is the quantity which is appearing in general one-dimensional boundary value problem or generic form? What is the variable in generic form? What is the corresponding variable in the specific application, which is buckling, column buckling? What are the corresponding quantities? You try to match and find it out and then write the element equations directly. How did I write these element equations? Because I already know the element equations for a general one-dimensional boundary value problem. I can make the substitution and write this. So please take a note of this. This is for one element. This is for one element. Element equations looks like this. This one here, y1, y2 is nothing but y value at node 1, y value at node 2. So please take a note of it. And it turns out that this equation system that you get, you can see here, there is a matrix here multiplied by a vector and a matrix multiplied by a same vector, and on this side, right hand side, it is a zero vector. So this is similar to a lambda a minus lambda b multiplied by x is equal to 0. Okay, a minus lambda b multiplied by x. So it's an eigenvalue problem. This turns out to be an eigenvalue problem. This because the right hand side is 0 and this matrix is multiplied by the same vector. This matrix is also multiplied by the same vector. So when I say A, this is what I mean. A matrix, I'm saying this is A matrix. Alpha, this is alpha, and this is B. So what I'm saying is A minus alpha times B multiplied by a vector x is equal to 0. So this is of that form, so it's an eigenvalue problem. Okay, so this is element equations. I hope you have taken. Now we need to decide how many elements we want to discretize. With how many elements you want to discretize this column of length L. So let's see how many elements. Here 4 elements are used. Each element is of length 1/4 of the total length here. No, so 4 elements means you are going to have 5 nodes. So this is how the discretization looks like. For each of the element, you assemble the element equations. So here for first element equations are assembled. And since the length of other elements are same as the first element, the element equations look similar except wherever y1, y2 are there for first element, you replace with y2, y3 for second element, y3, y4 for the third element, y4, y5 for the fourth element. So that is how you can get the element equations for each of the element. And once you have the element equations, you can easily write the global equation system. Please take a note of this global equation system. Please take a note of global equation system. And now this is going to be an eigenvalue problem. We need to solve for eigenvalues and eigenvectors. The lowest eigenvalue corresponds to your critical buckling load. How it is, we are going to see in a while. And then before we solve this, we need to apply the boundary conditions. What are the boundary conditions? Curvature at node 1 is 0, curvature at x is equal to 0 is 0, curvature at x is equal to L is 0. Curvature is nothing but y. At node 1, y value is y1, at node 5, y value is y5. So y1, y5 are 0. So eliminate first row, first column from this equation, you get the reduced equation system. Solve for y2, y3, y4. Or before you solve for y2, y3, y4, since this is an eigenvalue problem, for non-trivial solution, whatever reduced stiffness matrix you get, the determinant of that should be equal to 0. Based on that condition, you determine what are the eigenvalues. Once you get eigenvalues, you substitute each of the eigenvalues and get the eigenvectors. Okay, so that is the procedure. So substitute y1 is equal to 0, y5 is equal to 0. Then first row, first column, last row, last column can be eliminated. And you get the reduced equation system. Here a substitution is made. This quantity is the PL square divided by 96 EI. That is denoted with letter Z, capital Z. So with that understanding, the previous equation, reduced equation, can be written like this. And if you want non-trivial solution, what is meant with non-trivial solution? Please note that you have a matrix here multiplied by a vector is equal to 0 vector. What is trivial solution? Trivial solution is y2 is equal to 0, y3 is equal to 0, y4 is equal to 0. That is a trivial solution. But I am not looking for the trivial solution. I am looking for non-trivial solution. Non-trivial solution means determinant of this should be equal to 0. Non-trivial solutions are obtained by equating the determinant of this quantity, which is in the square brackets, which is nothing but a matrix. Determinant of that should be equal to 0. So by equating determinant of that, we are going to get, you just use your matrix algebra. This is a 3 by 3 system. So 3 by 3 matrix. When you have 3 by 3 matrix, when you take derivative determinant of that, you are going to get a quadratic or a cubic equation. If it is 3 by 3, you are going to get a cubic. If it is 2 by 2, you are going to get a quadratic. So you are going to get a determinant of that, equating it to 0. You are going to get a cubic equations. Solve this cubic equation for the 3 roots. You are going to get 3 roots for this equation. Since it is cubic, 3 roots. Solve for the 3 roots. Arrange these 3 roots. Arrange these 3 roots in ascending manner. So 3 roots, Z is going to have 3 values, Z1, Z2, Z3, and they are arranged in a ascending order, Z1 being the lowest. So what is this Z1? Z is nothing but PL square divided by 96 EI. So PL square, so Z1 is equal to, this means this is the lowest eigenvalue, equating lowest eigenvalue to this, and then trying to determine what is this P. What is this P? That is going to be the critical buckling load. Load corresponding to the lowest eigenvalue. That is going to be the critical buckling load. And what is exact solution for this problem? Pi square EI over L square. And if you try to find what is this pi square to second significant digit, it is going to be 9.87. Whereas the coefficient here you got is 10.37. So the solution which you got is on the higher side. So still it is not converged. If you want to converge this value, whatever critical buckling load that you got, you want it to be close to the exact value, you need to increase the number of elements. We will see that in a while, okay? So this is how you determine critical buckling load. You solve for Z1, Z2, Z3. And then how do you solve eigenvalue problem? You please go back to your basic mathematics and check. Maybe you must have studied as a part of your 12th class mathematics or first year engineering mathematics. Once you get eigenvalues, you substitute each of these eigenvalues, solve for y2, y3, y4. When you are solving for y2, y3, y4, you need to equate one of these, either y2 or y3 or y4 to 1 and solve for the rest. So that is the procedure. So substituting z1 is equal to here, z is equal to z1, and taking here y2 is equal to 1, solve for y3, y4, and then you get the solution. Solution in the sense y2 is 1, y3 is this, y4 is this, and y1, y5 are 0. And this is corresponding to z is equal to z1. And you need to repeat this with z is equal to z2, z is equal to z3. And each time when you do whatever you get here, that is going to be your eigenvector. Eigenvector here represents y values. Y is nothing but curvature. So that is what? Here it is written as lowest buckling mode, because this corresponds to the lowest eigenvalue. So this is how you are going to solve this problem, column buckling problem. Just now I mentioned here the difference between these two. Here 10.37 is what we got when we used 4 elements, 4 2-node elements. But the exact solution is 9.87 EI over L square. So if I want to match this, I need to increase the number of elements. As you increase the number of elements, solution is going to converge. Solution is going to converge from 2 directions. Some problem solution may be on the higher side, and some problem solution is on the lower side. Okay? And here what is happening, you please see critical buckling load, you got this. Exact value is this. Whatever you predicted using 4 elements, the value is this, which is little bit higher from when compared to this one. So when you use less number of elements, what is happening? When you use less number of elements, what is happening? You require more load. That means it is becoming stiff. When you use less number of elements or 4 elements, it is stiff. So you make it 5 elements, repeat this problem with 5 elements. 5 elements of equal length means you need to, each element is going to be of length L divided by 5. And you can increase the number of elements. See how the solution converges. So that convergence is shown here. If you use only 2 elements, you get this. 3 elements, 4 elements, and you increase 5 elements, maybe you are going to come closer to this. Okay, so this is the application of general one-dimensional boundary value problem, in addition to whatever we have seen related to heat flow and also lubrication problem, as well as, and this is related to structural mechanics. Okay, so this is application of general one-dimensional boundary value problem, and in the next class, what we are going to look at is, so far we have seen only 2-node element, 2-node finite element. There are different ways of. Here you see what you did is you have 4 2-node elements. 4 2-node elements you have. Instead of 4 2-node elements, I can adopt 2 3-node elements. 2 3-node elements also are going to result in 5 number of nodes, 4 two-node elements are also going to result in 5 number of nodes. And in two-node element, how the field variable is going to vary? Field variable is going to vary linearly. Okay, and in 3-node element, if I take 3-node element field variable is going to vary in a quadratic manner. So 3-node element is going to be higher order element. It's going to be a quadratic element, whereas 2-node element is linear element. And your size of the equation system is going to depend only on the number of nodes. So what I'm saying is, instead of 4 2-node elements, if I adopt 2 3-node elements, how the solution is going to be? So one way of achieving convergence is, you can see here, one way of achieving convergence is increase the number of elements. Another way of achieving convergence is, instead of using lower order elements, use higher order elements. So the next topic is going to be, first we need to start deriving the shape function for 3-node one-dimensional finite element, and then use those shape functions for 3-node finite element and get the element equations and solve this kind of problem and see how the solution compares. Okay, so this we are going to see in tomorrow's class, or tomorrow in the sense next class after 1 week, because next week we have a break. So that is what we are going to see in the next class. Meanwhile, I'm going to share with you the assignment, next assignment, based on whatever 2-node element general one-dimensional boundary value problem, 2-node element. Using that, we derive the element equations. And based on that, if you are able to solve a problem, you solve it from the assignment which I'm going to send. Or sometimes, please note that this general one-dimensional boundary value problem is one thing that we developed with a hope that at least a few of the applications, the differential equation is going to have similar form. So it is easy for us to write the element equations by comparing the corresponding quantities in the generic form and the specific application. But if some problem is not fitting into this, if it is not fitting into the form of general one-dimensional boundary value problem, there is nothing to worry. You need to start, you already know how to derive the element equations from the fundamentals of variational method or Galerkin method. You follow that procedure and get the element equations. Okay. So with that, what I will do is I'll share with you the assignment, next assignment. You try to attempt it. So let me take attendance. Any questions? Or let me show you the, for completeness, let me show you this assignment, because we have some time. So this is the assignment you are going to get anyway. Don't worry about these dates, okay? Because please note that this is all standard material. It's not going to be like, it's all well-established techniques. So same thing the other batches, earlier batches have studied. Anyway, don't worry about it. This date will be changed. So this is the this is the kind of problem which may be of very interesting to you as a structural engineer or as a civil engineer or somebody who is interested in structural mechanics. Okay, so you can see here it is a flexible cable governing differential equation corresponding to a flexible cable, and then the corresponding boundary conditions are given. Now if you want to derive the element equations for this, what you need to do, you compare this with general one-dimensional boundary value problem. I told you in the beginning of today's class, you please make a note of general one-dimensional boundary value problem, the differential equation and other. If you have that in front of you in your notes, you make a comparison here. K, this T here, capital T is taking the position of K in your generic form, and P is 0, Q is nothing but rho times G. Q is rho times G, and two essential boundary conditions are specified. Both boundary conditions are essential, so alpha and betas are all 0. So with that, you go to element equations for generic form and substitute this information, you get the element equations. Once you get element equations, between 0 and L, you decide the number of elements. You decide the number of elements. Here, it is mentioned, first thing is using generic form of element equation, write down the element equations for a linear element, two-node element. For this problem, assuming T is constant over each element. T is nothing but, it's not temperature or anything. T here is tension, which is taking the position of K. Okay, K is constant. That is what here, whatever element equations that we derived, they are for element K is, assuming K is equal to constant. So we can directly use that because T here is also constant. So once you get element equations, at least 3 elements you use, discretize between 0 and L. So each element, let's say all elements are of equal length. Each element of length L divided by 3. So 3 elements you take, 4 nodes, and you got element equation for one element. You get the element equation for other elements. Assemble the global equation system and solve for the unknowns. What are the unknowns? Unknown is nothing but this displacement, vertical deflection of the cable. It's a very interesting problem. Please take a look at it and try to solve it. Okay. Next one is this. Next problem is this one. Axial deformation of non-uniform elastic bar. And this problem is given. Just now I told you, given any problem, your first trial you can do is you try to compare that with general one-dimensional boundary value problem, the form of that. Generic form you try to compare, given any problem. If you are lucky, if it is matching with generic form, you can easily write the element equations. If it is not matching, if that particular problem, differential equation or boundary conditions are not matching, then don't worry. You start from the basics. So this is what idea of giving this problem. Here it's not going to match with general one-dimensional boundary value problem. It's not going to match with generic form. You need to start from basics and derive the element equations. Okay, second one. And here anyway, develop element equation here linear here EA. Here EA is given as function of x. Third question is assume EA to be linearly vary. Sorry, here at least 3 elements following data. Here, this is assuming EA to be constant. Second problem, you assume EA to be constant. Okay. And the third problem is you take as it is given here, and then solve it. So only thing is your that integral which contains this EA. Now you need to do integration. Okay, so you just go through it and we'll see. So the fourth problem is related to higher order elements, that is where you can wait. To solve fourth problem, you need to wait till the next class. But with whatever knowledge, if you had followed till today's class, whatever we covered properly, you should be able to solve 1, 2, 3 problems. At least to give a try to this, okay? So I'm going to send you this assignment. Any questions? If there are no questions, let's meet in the next class. Thank you.